Welcome to the Beautiful Step Podcast,
where we
run,
stomp,
tiptoe,
and tango into the confusing
but beautiful
world of togetherness. We are your hosts, Kris
and Charity.
Now, let's go make our together even better.
And we're live
Hey.
at the cabin.
It's our anniversary.
It's our anniversary.
Well done, babe.
What do they
Stayed
say?
married to me for a lot of years.
28 years?
28 full years.
And then what do they say? The best 17 years of my life? Is that how they do that?
They don't say that. You say that.
Oh, I
but
do?
really, that's a skewed number now because I think we've had a lot more.
23 years. 23.
Yeah.
Best 23 years of my life. What would you say?
That's probably, yeah.
What would you
That's
say?
probably about right.
Seriously. What would you say?
Yeah.
23, yeah.
Yeah. 5 kind of miserable years in those 28. So, hey, those are good odds.
Speaking of miserable, we had to shut the drapes.
Because it's really ugly out.
But
I'm so tired of the rain.
Let's let everyone look. This is our cabin. It's not a fake background.
They've been looking.
It looks like a fake background.
It
like we
does.
downloaded it and this window's fake. But this is real, actual window. And that's
Crummy
real.
weather.
Like you can hear it.
Yeah, the
Hear
river, and
Yeah, so that's cabin.
the rain, the
that
constant
over
rain.
there's my barbecue. And all right, we're off. Ready?
Yeah.
Okay, what are we doing?
So this is Forgive and Forget Part 2. Because we've been finding that we've been doing parts, because we don't really get everything covered.
Because I talk too much.
No, because I talk too much.
You do.
But hey, so recap, because you kind of gave us an idea last time. Just really quick, tell us what that was.
Okay.
About forgiveness.
The big idea about forgiveness is, I mean, obviously it's really important. Everybody deals with it, but it is to not forget, because you can't. It's forgetting. It doesn't mean you can't remember it anymore.
What they did.
It just means to not act on what you do remember, or act in a different way that you remember how to act.
Yeah.
Like you remember to be mad every time you think of them. Well, forget that.
Yeah.
That should be removed.
Right, which is what was that?
That was Thich Nhat
Buddhist?
Hanh.
Thich Nhat Hanh.
You should look at it. He would just looking at him will mellow you out right away.
Because he's a philosopher.
He's like a Buddhist.
Is he a monk?
Yeah. Sorry, monk. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, Thich Nhat Hanh. Anyway, he says that should be removed.
That should be removed.
Yeah, I like that.
Don't remember. Just
So
remove that.
we talked about how hard it is just to, the forgive and forget thing doesn't really work, but how do you actually safely forgive or do so in a way that's going to be the most powerful for
I loved
you?
your point yesterday.
Which point?
The one where you were talking about allies and such.
Yes.
It
So,
was so good.
yeah, we talked about how important it is to reframe.
Yeah, because people are like the roles change or whatever.
Yeah. So, if I need to forgive somebody, because the whole point of forgiveness is that I become more powerful if I forgive.
Yeah.
So the idea is that if you sit around waiting for people to change, you're going to be sitting around forever and you're going to be playing the victim role all the time.
Yeah, and
Because-
you've abdicated your power or responsibility, really, or choices, or freedom, or peace, or
And
whatever you want to call it.
feeling and
Everything.
all that
yeah,
to them.
You're abdicating it to them.
Yeah, which is such a victim mentality. It's so disempowering.
Can I say learned helplessness there, or is that not really? Like,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
You could become
It's
a
that-
person that learns helplessness there. You're like, well, I just, somebody told me I needed them to do something to,
Why try?
to forgive them, and no one ever does that. And so why even bother trying? No one's ever going to actually meet my expectations of what they do to reconcile or whatever, redemption. And
They're in full control at that point.
yeah. And that's so disempowering and such a bad way to live.
Right.
Honestly. So I like the idea that if you want to be a person that stops having everything done to you,
Ooh.
honestly, I don't know why people walk around wanting everything done to them. And, I say that like you're wanting it, but what I'm really saying is your actions are saying that you want everything in life to occur and happen to you outside of your will, because that is how you portray your life.
Wow.
Everything is blamed on somebody else. Everything is out of your control.
Right.
It's all hitting you, and you're just subject to the world and everybody else's things. And I'm like, man, quit being such a sissy. You're
baby
or like I don't like using those feminine terms because I'm like, women are powerful. I don't like that. So what's a non-gendered specific way to say, like, quit being a lame person and power up?
Is wimp in there?
Wimp. That's good. Wimp. Yeah.
I like
I'm
wimp.
sure there's a derogatory swear word there that we could use, but
I know
most of them are gendered weirdly.
Yeah. I
so-
won't say it.
Anyway, no.
Okay, go.
So anyway, quit being a wimp, honestly.
Yeah,
And
I like
take control of your life and quit letting other people determine if you're going to be happy or peaceful or
Right.
free. So quit being the person who's like everything's happening to you. And forgiveness is the huge key to that.
Wow.
Because forgiveness says, I'm not going to let things happen to me. Even if stuff did happen, I'm going to use it for my own power, my own good, and all of that. And I'm going to let everything work for me.
Can I just ask a question really quick here? Don't you think it would follow then that if someone finds themselves right now, like just listening to this, they're like, you know what? I think I do play the victim a lot.
Yeah.
I think I do, I do abdicate, my choices to other people in that I make excuses for a lot of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm fine. Like if I'm really honest with myself,
I'm waiting for other people to step up.
Yeah, I'm letting everything happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
Wouldn't it follow then that there's possibly, they should probably chase down some unforgiveness in their life?
I love it. Yes.
You know what I mean?
It
Seriously.
probably is rooted somewhere in there for sure. For sure. Because at some point you decided that you didn't have a way to get out of this, or you let other people's actions affect you to the point of you kind of believing that was the way you needed to live.
It's like a hostage is a hostage, right? And they act hostage.
Yes.
And so if you have something in your life that's holding you hostage, it typically will, percolate out into the rest of your life, I would think.
Yeah. And unforgiveness does that. It kind of puts bars around us because we have decided that we're going to not move past that.
So it's not just that you're like bitter or angry or, going to get cancer because you're just eating yourself alive. It's actually, it's affecting your productivity. I mean, it's affecting so many more areas. Unforgiveness will affect so many more areas of your life than you can actually think. And once a person, I've watched this so many times. Once a person is able to really not remember and really forgive and go, there's a click and a chain that is broken and a weight that is lifted. And it's like, man, get this person a new pair of shoes. And they feel great.
Yes.
Like, yeah.
Well, this is self-evidencing. I mean, have you ever, and this is me, every time we're in a big fight, which, isn't that often anymore, but when we were first married, it was all the time.
Yeah, every night.
But every
Not every
night.
night. I like it.
Yeah. But when we got in big fights, it's like, forget about me being able to do anything. I mean, I was derailed. Like, I couldn't function very well. I was so upset. The world is coming to an end. I couldn't work well. I couldn't clean the house. I couldn't, all my conversations with other people were, skewed by my upsettedness. And, all because that unforgiveness had kind of, created these barriers to me being able to function.
Wow.
To being free, which is why I keep saying, hello, forgiveness isn't so that someone else changes. It isn't so that you make them a better person by forgiving them or they come to a realization and change. Hello, that's probably not going to happen. Maybe, but probably not. Forgiveness is for you.
And the whole crazy part is they may not know that you forgave them.
They might not even know that you're mad at them.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they may not, first of all, they may not know that you're even mad at them. But second of all, they may never get a chance to hear you say, I forgive you.
Yeah.
And so for those reasons, you already know it's not affecting the person whom you're supposed to forgive.
Yeah, and honestly, it's BS to think you need to go and tell everybody you forgive them. Only when they need to hear that you forgive them, should you do that.
Yeah.
If they're unaware of it, or if really it's not something you've talked about, you don't need to go and tell them you forgive them. Honestly, that's such a passive aggressive way to be mean.
Dude.
It's
High five.
It's such passive aggressiveness. Stop with the, lameness. Just, if you're going to forgive them, just forgive them in your heart and
Man,
move on.
I can totally think of this one woman who does that all the time. It's so
there's some people that just
sad
constantly do it, and you're
watch.
like, you're not actually forgiving me because, or saying to me that you forgive me because you want to forgive me. You're saying it just so that you can tell me you're mad at me. But even so, like, if you're actually going to forgive somebody, just forgive them in your heart, unless it's something that they actually need to hear out of your mouth. Right. Like, this is so. So back to the idea that.
But wait. Just really quick on that. I would say if you have it in your heart and mind and power and courage to say to someone, or to say to yourself, I need to go tell this person I forgive him, could be a really good first step.
Absolutely. If you need to do that, you should also then have the balls to go and say, like, well, I also was wrong. I wronged you.
Yeah.
If you can't do that, then maybe the forgiveness piece,
At the very least, you're about to say, so you need to apologize for talking shit about you for the last year and a half.
Yeah, exactly.
Because I haven't forgiven you.
Exactly.
You're going to find something to apologize for when you have unforgiveness.
Yeah,
trust me.
Totally.
I love it. Okay.
You did something wrong.
We digressed a little. Go.
So forgiveness is for your own freedom.
Yes.
That's the bulk of it.
Yeah.
So you're doing things for your own good, and instead of having things done to you. Because here's the deal. You could walk around and believe that the universe is doing things to you.
Out to get you,
everything happening to you. Or you could be somebody that's walking around believing that the universe is benevolent and wanting your best self to come forward.
I love it.
And is going to orchestrate. God, the universe, whatever you want to call it, is orchestrating everything for your good.
Yeah.
And like when I hear people use that verse, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to his purpose, they use it and they'll say, like, well, all things work together for good in the long run.
Yeah, later.
Yeah. I'm going to
all work
complain
out
right now,
10 years.
and I'm not going to see the good right now, but someday God will redeem it all.
Well, come on. I mean, that you have to understand that it's okay in, especially Christianity, because, I mean, you get heaven, baby. So if this sucks till I'm 88 and die, it all worked for my good.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't want to live for age 80. I really don't.
Right.
I want to live for right now. I want to live to be free right now.
Sure.
I don't want to be subjected to life in prison until I die.
Ooh.
Like, that's not a life for me. I have zero interest in that. I want to be free right now, which means that if I want the most freedom in my life, I'm going to be the most forgiving person. And what does this look like? It doesn't mean I'm a doormat. It doesn't mean I don't speak up for things. It means that I learn to reframe and understand and act differently on what I know.
You don't act on what you know, or you act differently on what you know. Yeah, that's the nuts and bolts of it. That's the best that I've heard and can come up with, and the most helpful thing I've heard about forgiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
hands down.
I read this book lately, it's probably one of the best leadership books I've ever read. It's called 15 Rules for Conscious Leadership. Fantastic book. Mm-hmm. They go through this thing, and one of the conscious leadership attributes is that you view everyone and every situation as your ally.
Okay,
and
you were talking about this.
I loved this thought.
Yeah, give it to us.
Because here's the thing. When you think about your allies, you think about who is in war with you. Who's going to war with you? And the reason you think about it like that is because there's a common good that you're both going for, or a common interest. You've decided, like, if we're going to war with France against China or something, well, the United States and France are together in being against China. That's why we're going to war. That's why we're allies.
That's common enemy.
Yeah, right? Common enemy, common goal. But I got you. There's a goal. We have a shared vision.
There's a third thing.
Yeah. So here's the deal. Can you make allies with somebody without them knowing you're their ally? Well, you would normally think no.
Secret ally?
Yeah. Like, here's my thing is I'm walking around now viewing everybody as my secret ally.
Stop it.
No, here's why. It's because I'm like, oh, you don't know it, but I'm actually viewing you as my secret ally for my growth. Our goal, though you don't know, is that I'm going to grow and I'm going to get...
Even if somebody's out dissing you super hard?
Yeah, it's like, hey, you didn't know it, but what you're doing right now is making me stronger, better, more loving, more empathetic, more powerful. Like, thank you very much. We're both working on the same goal.
So I love that. But you're telling me you're that well adjusted and self-aware that you can be like, oh yeah.
No, but it's coming to mind all the time now.
I love it.
It's coming to mind. I'm constantly like, okay, this situation, how is it my ally?
Okay, so now you're not saying this out loud, like to people.
No. You're obviously not saying it to people because they're
But you're telling this is what you remember.
This is what I'm telling myself. Because here's the deal. Disempowered people view everything as an obstacle. Everything is an obstacle.
Wow.
Everything is a stumbling block. Everything is something you got to get over. Like, it's like, woe is me, something I got to get over. Like, it's such a struggle. It's such a trial. And I'm like, no. I have an ally even in the people I can't stand. Thank you very much for making me that much better.
You have an ally in people who you can't stand. You're going to have to spell that out.
Well, that's exactly what I'm talking about. We're both working for my growth. We're both working for my freedom.
How does a person who is antagonistic work toward your growth?
Well, I'm going to bring this up. So I'm doing all this work for the state of Alaska, right? And I'm doing, and then other people too. Like, I'm doing this work in child welfare policy, right? So the deal with that subject in particular is there is tons of things that have happened in the past where people have been wronged. Lots of people, families.
Not just kids.
No, I mean, the system just breeds lots of harm.
The system needs some serious intervention and prayer and help and love.
It's bred lots of harm. So when you're going in and trying to reform a policy situation like that, you're walking into the lion's den, honestly. Because there's going to be people in every room that have been wronged significantly. And it's not a joke. Their wrongs are not like some trivial thing, like their children were taken, their culture has been destroyed, their, everything about it. It's like, this is serious stuff. But when it isn't us who's
like
gone...
stuff like this kid could have been placed with a family who's much more like them, and yet the state, like, that kind of wronging you're talking about?
Somebody took my kids and they shouldn't have, and now my family's ruined.
And all I didn't have was a bed or something.
Yeah, it's like... that's...
I understand.
Like, things happen. Like, they didn't really try that hard.
I got you.
Whatever.
I was just trying to qualify this whole idea of... But yeah, I could see how that could be a beehive.
So I walk into these situations, and I'm walking in, and literally, it feels like every time, especially at the beginning when I started this work, there was so much... resistance. Because of...
And you're building something.
Yeah. Every time you're building something, there's resistance. But, like, particularly in large-scale systems, there's a lot of resistance, and it's coming from multiple sides.
So it's not automatic for you to walk into this place and be like, hey, thanks for showing up for my growth.
Oh, like, hell no. No.
Yeah.
And individual people are going to challenge you much more than other people will. The people that are the strongest are going to be really challenging because they're the ones who are actually going to have the guts to speak up.
Yeah. Usually it's funny because, I was always taught, I did a lot of public speaking, preaching, and stuff like that. And one of the warnings was the strongest guy in the room is going to want to be the loudest.
Yeah.
And so you're going to, and especially in like a charismatic setting, they're like, hand me the mic. I have a word from God.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're like, you're just trying to be the strongest guy in the room right now. But the same kind of a deal with what you're talking about is these wounded people or whatever you're going to hear it, and you're going to be like, these aren't my allies.
And honestly, you should hear it. We should hear it. But boy, does it hurt to hear it. I mean, when it comes at you and you're just the message bearer or something, and it feels like, when it first started happening, I remember feeling so attacked personally. Like,
you're like, I'm gonna have to work through some serious unforgiveness.
Oh, I remember sitting on that couch bawling, like, I am going to have to learn empathy in a way I have never learned it before. Yeah. But before I even got to that point, I was just pissed.
Oh yeah.
Just pissed.
How could they? Yeah.
Like, how could they come at me? I didn't do this to them. All this kind of stuff. It doesn't matter. There was an offense there that I had.
I get it.
And so I could have taken that and said, this is happening to me. I'm just going to quit, or I'm going to harbor resentment and then not try to make inroads with people.
Or excuses like, they're just not ready yet. I misunderstood or whatever.
But the reality is I had to go, wait, if I actually want to get better at this, if I want to get more free, then I need to look at them as my ally. What were they trying to teach me when they spoke up?
Hard to do.
It's so hard. But even if they did it in a way that was really hard to hear, what did I need to hear from that? What morsel did I need to hear? And that was for my growth.
Okay, give me one. Just
But
give us
in that
one.
situation, I was like, oh my God, I walk into these situations not being aware of all the different perspectives in the room. And I think people think like me.
Wow. So you genuinely came to a knowledge or an awareness of like, you know what? I used to walk into rooms and think everybody thought like I did.
I always
and
did.
everyone's going to understand me.
And that's what happens when you're only with people like you. But when you step outside of that comfort zone and you really put yourself out there, you're in situations with people, and it's like you got to come to that realization of like, oh, I'm the idiot. I'm the one who walked in actually thinking other people should think like me or do think like me or assumed things, and like I shouldn't have done that. That was the first lesson they taught me. Hello, Charity. Your perspective is not the center of the universe. Change your perspective. Listen to who's in the room. And actually be there to listen instead of like to assert something, instead of to. That was the first lesson they taught me.
I love it. I think in gang terms, they call that getting your ass handed to
Oh,
you.
so bad. And for months and months and months.
It was tough. Yeah, of course it is.
But the point I'm making is that like I had to view it instead of opposition. I'm not viewing people that I'm struggling with as a stumbling block anymore. I'm viewing them. I refuse to let them steal my freedom.
You pulled something pretty good out of that.
Yeah, but I just keep going like, okay, what do I learn from this? Okay, what do I learn from this? Every bit of opposition, what do I learn from this? How is this person now in my mind viewed as my ally instead of my stumbling block, instead of my opposition?
I love that.
They're my ally and not my opposition. So it's reframing them.
I mean, but I think for me, I would have to build in some punch dancing in the Pinewood kind of thing. You know what I mean? I would have to build in some like, I want to hate something right now. You know what I mean? Like, there's a piece of that honest anger that I think has to sort of flesh itself out in it, you know, and you did it on the couch.
Well, I did.
It took you a while.
I did it safely with you.
Yeah.
I think there's a real tendency that we want to do that with lots of people and get really angry and kind of spread that, and then you can't get back from that. It's like we talked about yesterday, how you have to make it to where people can make their way back, and you can make your way back to people. And if you go off like that, you're gonna have a real hard time making anybody your ally. Yeah,
I remember the way you processed that was pretty simple in my book. You came home, you were really, hurt. I don't think it was butthurt. It was more than butthurt, because butthurt is like trivial. This was like hurt.
Yeah.
Like, ow. Like that hurt really bad and misunderstood and all that stuff. And it was one of those juggling acts, those tensions where I was like, okay, so do I like interject? What do I help at
You're
this
so
point?
good at just like
and
listening.
It was funny because I was like just listening, because sometimes you can, lay things out pretty clearly, or I can lay things out pretty clearly for you, but you just sort of process, and over the next couple of days, I didn't have to say anything. You had figured it all out yourself. Like I think you had really processed it and come up with the nugget you're talking about.
Yeah, you just sat there and empathized, which I think was most helpful. Just listened and didn't take the other side. You just listened to me and commiserated with me.
And I guess the reason why I'm bringing all this up isn't to digress or talk about your process, but it is more of the natural reaction.
Yes,
is going to be, the very natural thing with forgiveness or unforgiveness is that I feel better if I hate them.
Yes.
I don't want to love them or whatever. And that's the weirdest thing I think the coolest sort of nuanced thing that what we're talking about. No one's asking you to love them and fall in love with them. Like, no one's asking you to be like, oh, I can't forgive them unless my heart is...
No one's even asking you to like them.
Exactly. We're asking you to not remember.
Yes, we're asking to remember different, to reframe them.
Yes, we're asking, to reframe them. And I know that this may seem cursory or first stage, but go ahead and try it.
Yes.
And then once you do, you operate so much more freely.
Yes.
And big and not petty.
Yes.
That it just, I think people will look at it and be like, how can you be around that person?
Yeah.
After, well, it's because I've forgiven them.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean? You love them? No, I just don't act on what I know about them.
And I've decided that they play a different role in my life than what I thought that they played. Or maybe that I went into it thinking that they played.
And now you have this thing where you're talking about, and by the way, they're making me healthier.
Yes, they're making me stronger. But what I had to do is categorize them in my mind.
Yeah.
I had to say, like, okay, their role is not like they're going to be collaborators, because they're not going to be.
Ooh, that's a good distinction.
They're not going to be collaborators.
I like
they will
that.
refuse to collaborate with me, even still. And that's okay.
Or let's just say, don't collaborate with them. Like, they might refuse, but you should probably...
Yeah, you always have, there's haters, there's people in
Yeah.
your life where you're like, I probably can't collaborate with them.
Yeah.
But what if I viewed them as my advisor on that perspective?
I love that. My mom would say that all the time about people who I, disliked or was in disagreement with or had some sort of dissonance or whatever. She's aren't these great teachers?
Yes.
She used to say that all the time. Aren't these great teachers?
Yes.
I'm like, no.
It doesn't
like
mean I
this
have
lesson,
to hang out.
Mom.
I know, but it's so true.
Yeah.
She recategorized everybody as a teacher in her
Yeah.
life, and you can go like, "Whoa, they're really mentoring me in this.
Right.
It's a hard mentorship, but damn, they're really mentoring me. This is awesome. I wouldn't have learned this any other way.
Yeah.
I would not have learned it any other way."
And it's funny because you could be somewhat pejorative and be like, you've been taught a lesson. But it's like, no, actually, that was a really good lesson. Thanks a lot. That was a good...
I chose the lesson. It's not happening to me.
Yeah.
I'm choosing the lesson. You're
That's a
choosing the
huge
lesson.
deal right there.
Yeah. They're not upping me and showing me anything. I get to choose what I learn out of that.
I like it.
Like they're not teaching me in that way.
Give you some whooping?
Yeah. No,
Right.
You're like, okay, you can give me your whooping or whatever you think, but I probably am not going to take the thing out of it that you think you're giving me. I'm going to take another thing that, that I got
I
a whole
really
other
like that.
lesson out of it.
Yeah, what you expect, I'll put my tail between my legs and quit because I've been taught a lesson. You're like, no, I didn't learn that from that lesson.
No. In
Thanks,
fact,
teacher. Like,
yes. In fact, I learned the opposite. I learned not to run and to speak up and to work even harder. And
yeah, I love that. I grow more vigorous with blows.
I love that. Where does that come from?
I don't remember, but it's...
Man, I love that.
Yeah, it was a really cool, I just get a little stronger. When you punch me,
Yeah.
it just kind of fires me up.
Yeah. And we mentioned that,
So
like the Tony Robbins thing, like
Yeah.
quit giving everybody credit for all the lame stuff they've done
Right.
and give them credit for the things that it made you be as a result of the lame stuff.
Yeah.
Like it's got to go both ways.
I like the... Okay, so let me just point out the language you're using, too, is empowered and disempowered. Is so much better than strong or weak, I think.
Yeah.
Just because it feels true. Because I do believe that people have everything they need at their disposal.
Yes.
They're super powerful. They can forgive any moment they want. They can make a choice.
You
they
get
can
to
do all
decide.
this. Yeah, they
Yep.
can do so much with their brain.
Yes.
But they can make a lot of mistakes in their mind too.
Yes. And here's the thing: as soon as you decide it in your brain, your mind directs your body.
Oh,
So the reason people have all these like sicknesses and things like that as a result of unforgiveness, which is absolutely scientifically true, is because your brain is influencing what your body does. Your heart rate's going up. Your body's not processing. Your neurons are firing wrong. Like all
100%.
all those things.
Yep.
So you can change everything about really your life just in reframing and choosing to think about somebody harming you different.
In other words, forgive them.
Yes, forgive them. And it doesn't mean reconciliation with the relationship. That can happen in a different way.
Wow. Okay, so that's a good distinction too, because we're not talking about collabing or reconciling or any of that,
Or even having
which
much
could
of a
come
relationship.
online later.
Yes. And that will come online later if you choose to do that. And we were going to kind of talk about that a little bit, like what that looks like.
Right.
But I want to delve into this thing because this book, 15 Rules of Conscious Leadership, had a fantastic tool session about this particular ally issue. So can I try it on you?
You're going to try, is this one of those cosmopolitan questionnaire things?
Well,
that you
it is
kinda
from the
Facebook,
leadership.
thing?
No, it's more substantial than that.
I guess when we were kids, they had the stuff in the
Oh,
magazine.
people still do that stuff.
In the magazine? they
Oh
had the
yeah,
questionnaire?
still
Oh, okay.
absolutely, yeah.
Anyway, go ahead. Let's go.
So okay, this is about changing your frame and the way you view people. Okay, right? So I want you to think about someone or a situation where you really, and we kind of hashed this out earlier, so you know what situation we're going to talk about. But we're going to go through it so that people can
Which
see.
one of the 14 that we talked about?
Okay. Well, we're going to go.
It's okay. Go ahead.
We're going to go through it so people can see what would this look like if I did this in my own life? Because it's helpful.
Okay.
Okay, so
And they could rewind this and get the questions.
absolutely. Well, actually, we'll put them on a blog. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Isn't that plagiarizing?
Well, we'll cite it. It's
Oh, yeah,
plagiarizing.
you can cite it.
Yeah, you can cite things.
Let's go. Go.
Okay. The first question is, and you kind of alluded to it, am I actually willing to see this person as an ally?
No.
If you're not, then you're not going to go anywhere with it. That's just,
Right.
like, might as well just, okay, let's just stop there.
Yeah. Ally, you could replace that with teacher.
Yeah. Am I willing to see this? Well, the thing I love about ally is you're viewing them as
I love
being
that.
for the
That is
same
fine.
purpose as you. Like, which teacher, I guess, does the same thing, but it seems a little more distant.
Yeah.
Ally's like, oh, they're actively working on it with me, but they don't even know.
That's so fun. They were sent here just to do this thing.
Absolutely.
Just for me.
Yeah.
Wow.
Absolutely. Which I actually believe. I believe that your life is set up purposefully.
Wow.
And the people that you engage with were purposefully there to give you your highest good.
Preach that.
Yeah. Don't you believe that?
Wow. Of course.
Yeah.
I just haven't heard you preach in a minute. That's good, babe.
Your highest good. Your
love
the thing
that.
you're supposed to learn in life.
Your deepest human experience. Right?
Yes.
Like your most satisfied, beautiful existence.
So that you can show up and be the person of purpose you're supposed to be. Because you were sent here to do something really purposeful. And you couldn't do it if you don't learn
I love that.
along the way.
Yeah, you definitely have a purpose. It's true though.
No, it's absolutely true.
I mean, come on, how individually nuanced and beautiful. Like, no two people are the same.
Right.
It's so self-evidencing that everybody has something they need to bring into the world. Some
Yes.
beautiful thing, some beauty.
So show up.
Or 10 of them, or 50 of them.
Yes.
Or,
Show up and let people teach you. Let them be your ally. Have all those forces with you instead of against you. View everything as
I
like,
love it.
adding to you versus taking from you. So
yeah, I won't ever answer that question just like I did before. Now
Okay.
that I've gotten
So
such
are
a
you
great-
willing
Yes.
to let this person be your ally?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'm in.
All right.
Let's
So
go.
if you're willing, then the next question you could ask yourself is,
Yeah, go.
what is it that I could not have experienced without this person or circumstance? What did they teach you that you couldn't have learned any other way?
That gets so personal so fast.
Yeah.
It's like you have to dig. I mean, yeah, like it makes me want to get like choked up, kind of,
Yeah.
because these lessons are so intimately strong,
Yeah.
And I think, in a nutshell, because you did talk to me about this before, without going into a ton of detail, I realized that if you want to build something that lasts a long time, you have to have genuinely creative people. Genuinely creative people.
Yeah.
No derivative, like genuinely creative people.
And that,
And if you don't have genuinely creative people, and they don't even have to be like super inventive. Is that a word?
innovative.
Innovative. Thank you. They don't have to be like super cutting edge. They just have to be really creative
And really honest.
and really well, being creative is honesty.
Yeah.
If you can't be creative unless you're honest. The more honest you are, the more creative you'll be.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that goes hand in hand. So that's why I put it in the whole creativity category. And so now, as I look to build anything, if there's a team that I'm going to assemble, yeah, it's the fake bullshit is, I would tolerate it so much less quicker.
Yeah. You would just cut ties faster when you saw it.
I would see it for what it is and just know that I can't really build a lot
Yeah.
on or with this person.
Well,
That was a hard lesson for me to learn because I kept thinking, hey, if they're nice enough, if they're cool enough, if they're fun enough, yeah, it'd be great.
yeah,
But-
because you're attracted to charismatic people.
or even if they're smart enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, no, they actually have to be really deeply creative and honest.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was hard.
And people of substance.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So
Yeah.
you couldn't have learned that had you not gone through that. So
Not that
now,
deeply, no way.
Now you're like, okay, who am I going to surround myself with if I'm actually trying to do something significant? Well, the most creative and honest people I can find that have substance.
Right.
That's what I'm going for. Even if they're not the coolest, even if they're not the most charismatic, even if they're not the, trendsetters, that's what I'm looking for.
Absolutely. So now let's just turn that question on you. Are you going to do it?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, go.
So I would say, I kind of gave my example, but I would say that it taught me that I could not have learned that circumstance had I not been with them. I could not have learned their perspective if I had not been put myself in uncomfortable situations.
Wow.
Here's the thing about pressure. Pressure produces growth.
Period. Yeah.
Like you always use that analogy preaching. Like if you want a muscle to grow, you're going to have to push it towards tearing, small tears to actually expand. And people that are growth-minded people understand that nothing good happens without tons of pressure. And people who are not growth-minded are going to look at pressure and see it as like a negative thing.
Right. Yeah. It's another term for pressure is creative tension.
Yes.
That whole idea of you should be in some sort of creative tension all the time, to the point where you're pushing yourself where your insecurities are showing up.
Yes.
You're putting yourself out there to where your insecurities are really pulling you back to like, let's dumb this down. Let's pull this down just a little bit. Let's not think that lofty. Like, that is the pressure I think you're talking about.
Yes.
Right. And that people who are not truly genuinely creative never really put themselves in that position.
No, and people that aren't actually interested in really growing are going to put themselves in a situation where that's not going to come up. And in my situation, I had always kind of been surrounded by people really who thought a lot like me. And then when I went back to school in a very different setting, and when I started doing this kind of work with lots of different perspectives at the table, I thought, oh my goodness, what did I learn from this? I learned that I will have to put myself in situations where there's multiple really drastically different perspectives if I want to grow.
That's beautiful. You're an artist. No, I'm being serious.
Okay. I'll
like
take
you're
that.
building something absolutely creative and beautiful and innovative and everything.
Yeah,
This is your song. I love it.
We were actually talking about this. There's this other really fantastic book that I'm completely in love with right now that's called Where Good Ideas Come From. Mm-hmm. But they talk about the fact that insight actually it comes from surprise. Like that's what causes insight.
Oh, wow.
Is all of a sudden you're like, oh,
I like that.
That's why that is that way. You put something together in a way that, you might have had all those same facts, but it's not insightful for you until they're in a certain sequence and you're like, oh my God, like, aha, right?
Yeah.
But that actually can't happen unless you're surprised. It's a reason, like, if you're in a nice, cozy setting, you're not going to have insights because there's no element of surprise that it's going to, like, throw you into, like, oh. And what I'm getting at is, like, if you're in a situation where the people around you are not going to surprise you with their responses and not going to surprise you with their thoughts and not going to throw you off kilter and be like actually opposed to what you're trying to do or actually have a completely different suggestion, or if you're not doing that, just count yourself like irrelevant.
Man, I love it.
Because that is what causes insight.
Yeah, it's so funny because you should expect to deal with unforgiveness a lot if the more creative you are.
Thank you. Yes. The more you're willing to grow, the more you're willing to put yourself out there, the more you're willing to want relationships, you should be always dealing with this unforgiveness issue and going like, okay, repackage, reframe, relook.
Man, that's good.
Yeah. So it's not a downside if you're dealing with unforgiveness all the time, like actually dealing with it, not just harboring it, but dealing with it.
Right.
Then it means that you're doing something right. We're in situations where you're actually dealing with real people.
Not taking incoming fire, must not be bombing any targets. Hey, you like that? If you're not taking incoming fire, you ain't shooting at the right target.
You're right.
I love it. That's so good. Okay, so where are we at?
All right, so we answered the question. What did you experience that because of this person that you wouldn't have experienced a different way?
Yeah, that was, and yeah, I mean, we could put all kinds of teachers in place, and I could tell you all these great lessons.
Yeah. Okay. This
was the virtue that needed to come across
Yeah.
in my life.
So the second question then, well, the third question really is, the first one is, are you willing to see them as an ally? The second question is that second one we just said. But then the third one is, what is this showing you about yourself? And what things are you having to like get slapped in the face with about yourself in this process? And yeah, I'll stop there.
You tell me. Tell me what I learned. Tell me what I learned
you want
about
me to tell you
myself.
what
No,
you
no,
learned?
no.
I'll
do
tell you.
it.
Okay.
No, you can if you want.
No,
You
no.
can,
I was going to tell you what I learned about me.
Okay, you go first then. Yeah.
I'll just say I learned about me that I actually was a very closed-minded person, and I actually was an extremely arrogant person, and I thought that I was much more knowledgeable and understanding than I was.
Wow. That's really good. I mean, that takes a lot of soul searching for you to just show up and say that. That's like, and truly believe it.
It gets easier if you just constantly feel that way, which right now, at this stage of my life, I feel like that's a constant state of being, because I'm getting my butt handed to me in lots of areas.
Creative tension, babe. That's beautiful. I love it. Yeah, I think with me, it probably, there's so many little things about my personality that I'm like, because the other day I was actually asking myself, how do I get in a position? How do I get myself in these positions where I'm typically a family member has something to do with my success? And not only that, but how am I working alone again? Like, you know what I mean? It's kind of surprising sometimes. I'm like, man, I'm 50 years old and here I am working all alone. Now, you know, I mean, one thing led to another, but I guess the big thing for me was, or is, that I think I'm working out really well, is I guess I'm allowed to be a little slower in letting people tell me who they are.
Go on.
So there's this, I would typically be like, oh, you're smart? Rad. And that's kind of all they are, you know? And not to like, because if they're creative or if they're smart or something, or if they're funny, then it was like, yeah, but they're funny. I mean, I can overlook all this other stuff because they're funny. And so I would have this, like, it's a little bit like that thing you talk about, Maya Angelou, saying, like, if a person tells you who they are, you should totally believe them. I think a lot of that came online with the revelation from this one particular teacher. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Like, I'm allowed to be slower in how people tell me who they are. Does that make sense?
So to not be really like, this sounds so brash, but it's because I wouldn't say this is, but you and I can be very, very frank.
Just
right?
be honest. Yeah.
Is it like what it told you about yourself was you were kind of gullible about believing people
100%.
what they've said, and like how they pitched themselves? You were like, oh, they must be that.
Yep.
And now you're like, I'm letting myself take time to evaluate that.
100%. And it was like, if a guy comes off really strong and confident, he's someone I need to look up to. You know, if a person's funny or whatever, you know, it's like, they must be happy and funny all the time. You know, wow, you know. And I often, I don't think it's like starstruck or blinded or anything like that, but I think you're right. It has something to do with gullibility. Is that a word?
Yeah, I think so.
And how that is just such a hard thing to admit about yourself.
Yeah.
When you think you're so wise and like you got people down and you're smart, to think at any point, oh, you know, sometimes I need to check, like I can be a little gullible.
Yeah.
Like I can buy in way too quick, way too thoroughly.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, that is probably, I mean, that's such a beautiful life lesson to learn. I wish I'd have learned it at like 18 years old rather than, you know, just Yeah.
Yeah.
I do love that about myself.
Yeah.
Because there is this extension of hope and like.
And you're super
There's
encouraging. You'll right away start to encourage people.
But then there's a piece of me that's like, that can sting.
Yeah. I'm with you in that. I've been learning that lesson too of you keep saying to me, like, you're getting better at holding your cards.
Yeah.
You're getting better at, like, reserving your opinion or, like, not sharing it all or, like, you know, just
probably turns out
close.
This teacher was like, you know, not everybody in here thinks like you do.
Yeah.
You should hold your cards a little closer to your chest, just a little longer.
Yeah.
And I bet you would be able to play that hand.
And even the situation you're talking about that you were processing, I learned some things from that same teacher. And one of them was, man, hold your cards a lot closer.
Yeah.
Like, there's a time to disclose and a time not to disclose. Yeah.
I love it.
So we learned that. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
The third question, or the fourth question, is, man, this is a hard one. Can I see their point of view?
No. No. That's the whole point.
No. Can I see their point?
I know. You'll never get me to see their point of view.
Can I see their point of view as being as true as my point of view?
Okay, now we're talking. Say the question again.
Can I see their point of view as being as true or even more true than my point of view?
Okay. Can I put one word?
Yeah.
One small phrase?
Love it.
2-word phrase in there?
You can add all these disclaimers.
Yeah. Can I see that their point of view is as true to them as my point of view is? That seems like I can get on board.
You can get on board with that, but what if you took it further and said, actually, all truth is your perspective. What you think is true is based on your perspective. Therefore, could their perspective be as true in reality
to them
in life as your perspective?
No.
Okay, you can get there, but I think you actually can. Like, I think you could get to the point where they might have had some things.
You're telling me that you are there?
No, I'm
no
saying,
one is here. I mean, come on.
Actually,
their perspective is this, like, as true and equal to yours. Like, come on. I mean, we live in a world right now where everyone wants us to think that we think that. Like, it's like everyone's like, oh yeah, you don't value people. You know what I mean? It's like, time out. I mean, if you're really, really, really honest, you think you're right. Which is why you're dealing with unforgiveness.
Yes, but...
And you can make the acquisition or the whatever, requisition or whatever you want to call it to say, yes, their perspective to them.
But isn't that...
is as right as mine is.
But isn't that what it is? Like, unless there's some universal truth that's governing the situation. But let's be honest. Most of these situations we're dealing with that are interpersonal are not universal truths. They're how we feel versus how someone else feels.
Absolutely. And I love what Cole always says too. It's like, man, welcome to a world where everyone's just making this shit up.
Yeah.
Everyone's creating their own world.
Yes.
Everyone's creating their own reality.
And in that situation, their truth is as true as your truth.
Right.
They saw it from the perspective they saw it, which means that it's absolutely true.
To them. That's what I'm saying. To them. That's the hard part. But I do, okay, I am willing to continue to explore being wrong. That's not what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. Like, and in fact, when I am wrong, it lands pretty hard.
Yeah.
You know, I typically can't be told, have to be shown kind of guy. And so for me, I hear what you're saying. Like, in reality, are they as right as I am? And it's like, I don't want them to be.
Exactly. What if you actually added more disclaimers even than you put on? You said, if I can trust or I can expect or I can understand that their perspective is as true to them as mine is. But then there was a stop.
To me. That's what you want to say.
Yeah.
You want to say as mine is to me.
Because we want to say as mine, which is the universally truth perspective, right. Which is not. Actually.
So that seems like a balanced statement.
Yeah.
I am willing to see that their truth is as true to them as my truth is to me.
Yes. I think that's beautiful.
That's very fair.
Yes. And it helps you then forgive because you're like, oh, well, they're just being as honest as they can with their situation, just like I'm trying to be as honest as I can with my situation.
I love it. And I will admit in that sentence, as we just shook that out, that is me admitting that I don't have a universal truth. That is me admitting, saying, this is a truth that is really dear to me.
Yeah.
You know, people talk about, this is my truth or whatever. That I used to really, turn my nose at and be so dismissive of that until like things like this happen to you, and I'm looking at it being like, man, there is a lot more to this world than just me and my perspective. Like,
there's a whole other 10 sides of this that I didn't even know existed.
And so that whole idea of like they're living their truth is the same exact thing I'm doing.
Yes. Yep. And one isn't more right than another.
That's usually the hard part to see. That's the hard part for people to really admit, because everybody wants to be in on the truth, like the secret truth, like the real truth.
Yeah, I hate to break it to you. There's like no secret truths.
It's hard. I mean, theologians, philosophers have been, and still to this day are working out.
And they're contradicting
what is
each
real
other
and what is true. and then they end up vacillating and flipping sides. Totally. And arguing against themselves 10 years ago.
Well, actually, that's a really good tool. If you want to know if you're skewed and like you're just stuck in your ways and you're really not having good perspective,
right.
Force yourself to argue the other side. Legitimately argue the other side. That's what the beauty of debate does.
No one does this.
But you should do it. If you actually want to get to the bottom of it, debate the other side. Why would they think that? Why would they feel that? Why would they?
Yeah.
What's their perspective? And rehearse it. Like, why would they have that thought? Yeah. That would really help you. Actually.
I think so. Yeah.
I think it helps me. Yeah. So, okay.
That's funny.
Another one, and then this is...
We have more questions?
This is the final one.
Okay.
In 20 years, what will you be grateful for? And what will you have pulled out that you learned from this circumstance or this person?
Well, the first one is it took me 20 years to forgive this asshole.
God, I hope not.
You know what I mean? I mean, that's the first lesson, because I love that 20-year marker, because it's like, a lot of these guys take about 20 years to
that's so true,
cool off from.
Yeah. But hopefully you can do it in 20 minutes. But
well, with your tools, Charity, we can...
Forgive everyone in 20 minutes.
We got it. How to forgive everyone in 20 minutes. Right here. You heard it first. Wait, you go.
In 20 years,
what will you be thankful for? We know your scenario. We know your thing. Go.
I will be so grateful that I forced myself to be around people that were different than me. That it will lead to a life of constant, purposeful setting that up in my life in every situation, and because of it I will be a so much more well-rounded and like loving person.
We should, man.
Right?
So good. I love it. Yeah.
I'll learn this one little lesson that'll then take it into every area, and I'll feel like maybe I will be eventually a more loving person.
Wow. You learned that one the hard way.
Yeah.
Man, girl. That's awesome.
But I'll be grateful for this.
Yeah. That's good. In 20 years. Yeah. Wow.
What do you be grateful for?
Yeah. As I'm thinking it through, I'm thinking like my friends will be better. You know.
Because they'll choose better?
Yeah. I won't be as gullible, you know.
I like that.
The people I'm mentoring will be way deeper and slower paced and less panicky and less shallow and needy. I think the men in my life that I look up to will be freer. You know, just to be, because part of that gullibleness, had so much to do with just expectations that I put on people.
Yeah.
You know, and it had so much to do with just like kind of your whole situation. Like, oh, everyone thinks like I do, and I can just stamp everyone, and you know, this is how they all are all the time. There's a gullibleness to that.
Yes. Naivety.
So naive.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, ultimately I'll be able to be more collaborative. You know, deeply, really collaborative.
Yeah.
To really create things that are meaningful and valuable.
And lasting. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that.
That's what I think. So it's like, when I think about this person, I'm like, I still hate them. You know what I mean? It's just so much, like, I can't say hate. That's just too strong. But I still am just burnt. I'm burnt, man. But this is so helpful because I'm like, the character that was brought online.
The stuff you got from it. How could you be bitter when you're getting good stuff? Right?
If that's what comes out of this.
Yep. And if we look at everything in life as like, what is this teaching me?
Yeah.
How is this growing me? How is this putting pressure on to where I'm flexing huge right now? Okay. It's all good. I'm going to learn from everything.
I love it, babe.
Yeah. Anyway, we didn't talk about really reconciliation, but just, I would say, in your unforgiveness, be careful to leave inroads back.
Yeah. I love it.
For yourself and for the other person, if you desire a relationship in the long run.
Yeah.
And don't be so short-sighted to think that you won't want the relationship in the long run. Because you might.
Every relationship has value.
Yeah, and if it's family especially, like, that stuff don't go away, so deal with it.
Yeah.
It doesn't go away. But anyway, I love you. Happy anniversary.
Hey,
babe.
happy anniversary, baby. I love you too.
Wait, babe, wait. How do we end this?
By saying thank you.
Okay, you guys are awesome. Thank you. There's nothing more encouraging than you hitting that like button and commenting.
And don't forget to subscribe.
And I know there's more. You have a list. Might as well go down the list.
Right. Okay. Watch the video of this podcast on our Beautiful Step YouTube channel or on our website where you can actually download transcripts and show notes of the episode. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram.
If today's episode made your together even better, tell someone.
Okay, now.
Right now.
Today.
Okay.
You can take one step.
It's just one step.
Toward the beautiful relationship you want in your life.
You got this.